Okay. RTK does mean Redux Toolkit. Okay. It's meant to be spelled correctly. I wasn't trying to be slick. Okay. Let's keep going. Right. RTK is an acronym, right, for Redux Toolkit. You can use Redux and Redux Toolkit together as well as separate. So we got mostly trues on that. That is also true, right? We saw that yesterday when I was halfway done with the, when I had finished the fruit stand part of the application, but I hadn't finished the farmer's part. They still work together in conjunction seamlessly. So you can have as much or as little of Redux Toolkit as you desire. They can work together. The most powerful method of Redux Toolkit is create slice. That is true as far as I know, and as of right now, and as far as we know as the class. They do have a create action. They do have a create reducer. And those are all well and great, but create slice kind of does it all. It's like, I'm going to take all of those things. I'm going to create your actions, your reducers. I'm going to make your action types. I'm going to be able to listen potentially to other reducers, and I'm going to do it all in create slice. So that's the most powerful. Which of the following can our create slice object have? So 86% of people said name. So, yep, our create slice, not only can it have name, I believe name is a requirement. Future state, not many people said that. That's good. It does not take a future state. That's not in the docs. Initial state, whoop, whoop. 100% of people said that. That is also a requirement. So that one is not optional. Reducer, got some of you on that, right? 8 of you, 38%, said it can take a reducer as one of the keys. That's wrong. The actual key is right below that, which is reducers, right? That key is reducers, and we can take from it because create slice itself, after it evaluates, it will be an object with a reducer key, but it's not something that our create slice objects have that it takes in as the argument. Which of the following can our create slice have? So it depends on how you understood that question, I suppose. If you thought I meant after its evaluation, you would have put reducer, but prior to, just like how we're setting it up, it only takes reducers. Actions, it does not take in an actions key, although it does evaluate to have an actions key. So again, that's probably a possible misinterpretation. Might not have been the best question. I'll be completely honest. I banged out this poll very quickly. Extra reducers, 3% said that. We can have extra reducers. That's where we can listen to actions that are occurring in separate slices of state. Okay, we'll see that more today. Other reducers, 0 for good. That's right. That's not a thing. Action types, we do not get action types anymore. We don't need to put those in. Our reducer itself will create all that for us. Okay, let's keep soaring. I should set up my application in the same file structure as before. So 71% said false, and that is correct. So it is the Redux Toolkit, their team's their belief and encouragement is for people to make a features folder that contains their separate slices of state with the features within those slices. You can still set up your applications the way we have been, you know, with the components file and all of that, and you can have your reducers. You could still do that. It doesn't break, but now the recommended way is to do it with a features folder. Oh, interesting. So this is a fun one. Redux Toolkit is opinionated. 62% of people said yes. And the answer is yes. Redux Toolkit is opinionated. What do I mean by opinionated? Opinionated means it has a Oh, yeah. Are you raising your hand, Rafid?
No, sorry.
Oh, okay. No problem. Opinionated means that it has a specific way that it's expecting for things to be, and it must be that way. So, example, express, not opinionated. Not at all, right? We can have our projects set up in all different types of ways. We can have different types of middleware. We can call things whatever we want. Nothing will actually break if things are there. Ruby on Rails, super, super opinionated. Ruby on Rails, every file has to be named exactly the right way in the right folder. If it's not like that, the whole application breaks. So they're like totally opposite sides of the spectrum. Now, Redux Toolkit, maybe not quite as strict as Ruby on Rails because you don't have to set it up with the feature structure. However, it is still opinionated because it's always going to take like our action. When our action has a payload attached to it, it will always be .payload. It has to be. So previously with Redux, it didn't have to be. Technically, we could have put like action.posts if we wanted the posts, and we called it that. However, with Redux Toolkit, it has to be action.payload. That change might not bother you that much, mostly because, well, I knew I was going to teach Redux Toolkit to you, so I introduced Redux to already always be using payload in our examples, because I thought that would make it a smoother transition. But that being said, it didn't always have to be called payload when we were dealing with Redux. It does with Toolkit. That's one of the things. It also always needs its initial state, or else it will break. It has just, it's quite a bit more rigid with what it's expecting. Okay, I love Redux Toolkit. We got 71% of people said true. The answer was true. So if you didn't say that you loved it, you're wrong. But that's okay. We'll get you there. Hopefully we'll get you right on all of these questions. I can still use Context API with Toolkit. Marvin said he guessed that one. That's great. Yes, you still can use Context API with Toolkit. That is A-okay. They are not mutually exclusive things. Okay. Any questions just flying through that list?
Can you just explain what opinionated means again?
Opinionated means that this has it's expecting certain things in order for it to work, and it must be set up that way. So, for example, when I don't think I have anything open right now, but when we had action creators in Redux, right, we knew that all actions have to have a type, right? Are you still with me? Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm sorry.
Okay. And so all actions had to have a type, and the payload, like if we wanted to pass more information with that action, it never had to be called payload. So we could have had action type receive posts, and then we could have had posts pointing to an array of posts. And so in our reducer, we would have said, hey, if action type is receive posts, we will return action.posts. And that was okay. That would have worked. We didn't usually do that because I didn't want to make it more confusing when we moved over to Redux Toolkit. Redux Toolkit, it has to be called a payload. So it's like, hey, if it's this action type, we want the action.payload. We actually need that keyword payload. That is a requirement when dealing with Toolkit. So that's part of what opinionated means. It's just how things have to be set up for them to work, and the expectations. That said, I also forgot to mention these couple things, which is that our Redux Toolkit is the official, it's official, which essentially means that the team that works on Redux also like works on, or members of that team also work on Redux Toolkit. And this is officially pushed. So if you go to the Redux documentation, they recommend themselves to go ahead and use Redux Toolkit. So it's not some offshoot library that's like competing with Redux. It is recommended by Redux. So that's something that's also kind of important to know. And the way that another key difference is with the toolkit is we can write mutative logic inside of our reducers, even though they're not actually mutating, because Redux Toolkit has immer that helps not actually mutate. Immer is a library that they're using. Immer is one of the bigger libraries, and that's what makes Redux Toolkit slightly a heavier thing to import, which they're constantly working on to make it smaller. Okay? All right, so first thing I want to share with you all is my screen. So let's start a small project from scratch. Now, I know what you're thinking. Let's write something like npx create React app, and then write like, I'll write toolkit continued. Does that look good to everybody? Looks good? Feels good? Oh, so Brandon wrote, so RTK isn't Redux. Nope, not really. Redux Toolkit, Brandon, is built on top of Redux. So it can be used together, but it's not officially Redux. Redux officially is what we learned prior to this. Okay, so this looks like a good way to start a project. Now, wouldn't it be really sweet? Wouldn't it be great if there was like a create React app, but also kind of got a lot of the boilerplate code done for Redux Toolkit as well? I think so. And so in addition to my create React app here and the name of what I want to build, I can also go space dash dash template Redux. And by doing this, I'm going to create something kind of cool. It will take a little bit of time. I apologize for that. I didn't think there was I guess I could have done it and then just showed the command and had it magically work. But I guess this way you can go ahead and do it also on your machine. So just to reiterate, that's npx create React app, the name of your app, and then space dash dash template space Redux. And by doing that, so we'll be able to have a Redux Toolkit application built for us. So we don't have to npm install at redux.js/toolkit, right? So this is more for if you were starting a project fresh, you would want to do this. If you're trying to adopt over an already made Redux app or an already create React app, then you'll probably be installing your at redux.js/toolkit. But if you're building something from scratch and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to use Redux Toolkit to help be my application state manager, then this up here is a good way to start. Oh, and it's Kevin's birthday. Oh my goodness.
Yo, que lo que, Kevin?
Okay, so while that's loading,
Hey,
let's all
happy birthday.
turn off of our speakers
Yo,
and
let's
sing
do
happy
it.
birthday.
At the same
do
time
it.
or at different
Yeah, at the
times?
same time. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3. Happy
Happy
birthday
birthday
to you. Happy birthday to you.
The nightmares are made out of.
Birthday, dear Kevin.
And a 2 and a 1
Happy
2.
birthday to you.
Thank you, thank you.
Many, and many more on channel 4, and Scooby-Doo on channel 2, and Christmas Time on channel 9, and Bugs Bunny on channel 20, and Little Lady on channel 8, and the end of you, boo-boo. All right. All right. Hey now. Kevin, that's
Thank you, thank you.
sounds like just the amount of chaos that I like. Okay, so we are still loading, right? This is kind of a heavy thing to do. Sorry. So like if you've ever watched My 600-Pound Life, this is like the equivalent of that almost in coding, right? This is big time. That is a great show with Dr. Now. What are you doing to yourself? If you're going to try to lose weight, you're going to have to stop eating so much. You're going to kill yourself. What are you doing? That is exactly how he talks if you haven't seen it already. Oh, that's right. If I want to wish Kevin a happy birthday, I'm going to say a happy birthday. But that's the way that we have to be talking if we're going to lose a lot of weight. Yeah, please finish soon. It is tough to vamp to an audience you cannot hear. I reacts to loading. Yeah, but React is about to finish. Hey, oh, it's done. All right, so let's go ahead and CD into our new project. So I'm going to call that Toolkit Continued. I'm going in, going to open the code, and let's see what she's got for us. Okay. Visuals code later. Forget about it. Let me just get this npm start. So while we explore. Okay, so we've got our source folder. We should be used to it. We've got our app.js. This looks a little different, potentially from some of the things we usually see. There's a little bit more in there. But we also have this nice feature folder. And well, we got an app folder. Our app folder has our store.js, which has this configure store, which has a counter and counter reducer already passed in. We don't really know what that is yet, but we can see in our features, we also have, it's tough to see, there's another folder here called counter. And we have a counter.js file, as well as a counter slice that's already been made for us. Okay, and let's see if it wants us started on another port. And let's go see it. So open our developer tools. Loading, loading, loading. Keep those code loading. All right. Yeah. It's got a okay, good. Oh, he's looking at it. Marvin's looking at it. Cool. Yeah, it is pretty dope. I'm looking forward to seeing all the dope. There it is. Okay. Right. So this is our default screen here. We have our increment of up, down, pretty much what we built yesterday. We have this little thing here, so I can make this a 3. I can change it, and I can just add the amount. I can also add the amount asynchronously, where we can see a loading bar, and it takes a second. And I can still add things while going. So that's pretty cool. And it gives us this nice reference of everything.
Corey?
Yes.
So that extra thing we added in the terminal, that is to make a structure for a counter app, basically?
Yep.
Okay, so that's pre-built, basically. That's not something you did.
I did not build this. This is pre-made for us so that we have a file structure and kind of a basic app setup. I could delete everything.
Gotcha.
Yes. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. This is kind of a win, I'd say, small win. Okay, but today we don't need everything. So I'm going to delete most everything here. I don't need all these notes about Redux. Right, I'm starting this project off the same way that I usually do. Oh, I deleted a div too.
The class name.
Yeah, I can add the class. I mean, I don't particularly care. I think it was called app, right? Okay, and for fun, I'll leave that counter in here just for fun, just so we can still see it. And that's gonna trim down to here. So we got, oh, okay, cool. Is that working? Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and build our own thing. Let's go ahead and build from the JSON API where we get posts. Let's say we wanted a bunch of posts. Okay. Are we with me still? Let's go posts. And okay. So let's start building this out. So underneath it, I'm going to have, eventually I want to get all these posts, but first I just want to be able to like write to add posts. So let's go ahead and start with our features. So inside of my features folder, I'm going to make a new folder and I'm going to call this posts. Okay. And inside of my posts, let's go ahead and make our slice. New file. I'm going to call this posts slice.js. All right, so I'm here. What's the first thing that I need to import?
Create slice.
Create slice, sounds good. Import create slice from at redux.js/toolkit. And so let's go ahead and make these. Now I'm going to give I want each post just to have a title. So what I want, each post to have a title and an ID. Okay, that's all I care about, let's say. So I'm not going to make a database right now, so I'm just going to have some ID. So let's say let ID equal to, I'm going to start it as 1,000 just for fun. That could be anything, right? It's just going to be a high number that I'm going to update. And let's go ahead and start creating our slice. So I'm going to say export const, and I'm going to say this will be called posts slice. And this is going to equal our create slice, right? So we're going to say create slice. We're going to invoke this function, have this object, and now we have to start passing in those things. So somebody give me or put in the chat the very first thing we're putting. Okay, nice. Thank you, Rafid, Karen, Marvin, Henry, Siham, Kevin, the Kevins, Doug, Ohidur. Excellent. Ujwaga he's still in there. I like it. Nice, Samantha. So we're saying name. To what's in a name? A lot, right? It has to have a name. So we're going to say posts. Seems to make sense to me. What's our second thing? Throw it in the chat. Chat. Jay Jones, quick with the draw. Rafid, nice. Kevin, nice. Kong, nice. Sam, nice. Ohidur, nice. Phil, nice. Deja, oh my goodness. Siham, we are flying. Doug says that's what they said. I think you mean that's what she said. That is the joke, Doug. All right, Marvin and Brutus says, haha, let's do it. We're going to go with initial state. And so a good initial state for this, let's pretend I'm just going to do an array of objects. All right, let's keep it simple. So I'm going to keep with an empty array. Our next key, what do we got here? Reducers, 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 says Deja, Sam, Crystal, Brutus, Karen, and more. And we're getting in there. Ohidur, Rafid, great. Let's do it. Reducers. Okay. So I want to make a post and add it into here. So here's my first temptation. So I'm going to say, I'm going to call this receive post. Or I'll call this create post or add. I'll just call it add post, whatever. I'm trying to choose the right name. That can be tough sometimes. And I'm going to say it takes in a state, and I'm going to say it takes in a action because it has to, right? And I'm just going to go ahead and be like, yeah, cool. So my action, it's not coming in with an ID. So I can go like action dot payload that ID, and that's going to be ID plus plus. And I go, oh, okay, cool. And I'm going to update it more. So I'm going to do state dot unshift, and I'm going to pass in this action dot payload. I'm like, all right, cool. Am I done? In the nonverbal feedback feature, tell me if this is okay. Yes or no? What? I'm getting so many no's. Repeat action.payload, I'm saying, is an object that I'm passing an ID with it and incrementing an ID variable from line 4, and then I'm pushing it into my state, the action.
And the unshift, what is, I forgot again what that letting us do?
Oh, you got to look up unshift.
Okay.
It's the opposite of push. Sort of. It's in the front.
Okay.
Well, that's one of our array methods. We got to know those. But that's okay. Yeah. Right? Remember, we got push, pop, unshift, and shift.
Okay.
Breathe those in and breathe them out. Okay, so I'm getting a lot of no's. So who's going to tell me why? Maria, I see you told me no, and I'm missing a prepare. Can you tell me about that?
Since you're doing like, yeah, no, sorry. I just remember something about prepare.
Okay, that's good. That's a good start. How about Jay Jones? I see you've got something to say about this here.
I was gonna say I remember you saying that it had to do with like a side effect. You can't have a side effect to your reducer, but you can have a side effect to your action.
Okay, so what's my side effect here?
Yeah, side effect is the ID plus plus.
Yeah, very, very good. Excellent. So it looks like most of us got it right. Marvin's saying, I got to export, Dave's saying export. Yeah, I do have to export at some point. That Wong too said that. Yeah. But what I am looking for is what Maria and Jay are saying, which is like, hey, this code has a side effect right here. I am export. Oh, yeah, that's okay that I'm exporting. That's if I wanted to get post slice somewhere. I don't necessarily need to export there. But okay, so if I'm saying plus plus, I am updating this variable. So this is more than being mutative to my state. This is the mutative line. This is fine for Redux Toolkit. But this here is assigning a side effect here. And that's not okay because our reducers still have to be pure. And the way this works is it kind of, Redux Toolkit builds this reducer and action all at the same time. So it doesn't really know which one is which and how that's supposed to work. So we do have to use prepare for something like this. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this and say instead add post is going to be an object. And I'm going to have my reducer, singular, right? This is going to be what hits the reducer. So this is where we'll have our state and our action. And here, I'll just go ahead and do my unshift here. So I'll say like state dot unshift action dot payload. Okay, so like I'm just going to push that into the front of my array there, the whole payload. But first, I got to actually prepare my payload. So that's what prepare is. This is to prepare the payload. And so this is just a function, and this can take something in. So in this example, it will take in a post. And here I get to prepare my payload. So I'm going to return an object because that's what my payload, that's like my action. And it's going to have payload as a key. And in here, I can write the code that I desire. So I could say ID is equal to ID plus plus, and I'm going to give it that title property that points to our post. The reason I'm giving it title is it will make sense later, but that way I can grab posts from an external API later. Okay, so by doing this, I can actually go ahead and do this side effect, and it's okay because it's part of preparing. Bless you.
Oh,
It's
sorry.
part of. Oh no, don't be. I was a great sneeze. Because it's part of preparing this payload, which will be used as part of the action instead of the actual reducer. This will remain the part of the reducer. Okay.
For the title on line 13, is it taking in posts or post?
This is going to take in a singular post.
And then the title.
Gotcha. Good catch. All right. Rafid in the game with the bug catch. I like it. Good eye.
Thank you.
I swear to God, you guys have like the best eyes. I think I might just be blind. And you know what? I'm just going to use an implicit return here. I don't need it to be longer. Okay, cool. So we've got our code here. Let's go ahead and export this. So I'm going to say export, and I will say add post. And this will be from our post slice dot actions. And let's also export our reducer here. So export default post slice dot reducer. Okay, so we've created this little slice here of life. Let's go ahead and add this into our store. So we go over to our store, which is conveniently already built out. And let's go ahead and grab it. So I'm going to import our posts reducer from /features /posts /post slice. Cool. And let's go ahead and add that. So we'll say posts, post reducer. Great. Got some mistake. So it doesn't like, it's because I don't have the word const here. Can't just export an object like that. And something else I'm doing wrong. Let's see. Attempted import post reducer. Oh, I don't need to destructure that when it's the default. So that's just a small sloppy error. Okay, cool. And we can look at our Redux dev tool and we can see that we now have this posts in our state. All right, so let's create a quick form to start being able to add this. So let's create a new file. We'll call this post form.js. And we'll import our React from React. I know I'm going to be using state for this because it's a form. And I'm going to go ahead and just export default. I'm going to say const input. I'm going to have a set input. This will be what I'll update. And this will be from our use state. Good initial variable for that would be empty. And I'm going to have, we'll just keep going. So we'll just do some kind of return I'm going to return some kind of form, right? I'll have an input. Those are self-closing. Can somebody tell me one thing our input should have?
A type and a value.
Okay, I'm going to go with value. I'm going to say type will default to text, so I'm not going to write it, but I definitely could, right? That's not bad. But I could say value. And my value is going to be set to my input. This way, it is a controlled input. Thank you, Marvin. And can someone else tell me one more thing I might want?
On change.
And on change. Okay, what should we listen for? When that change happens, what do we want?
Want to set the input.
Yep, that's right. We want to set the input to our e dot target dot value. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and import this in our app. Just
Misspelled on change.
Misspelled on change.
yeah. Well, what do you expect? Now it's good, right? Okay. I don't even know. All right.
Do we want to add required?
Sure. We can add required. Sounds good, right? Required means it's going to throw an error if I try to submit an empty post. And let's go ahead and see how this shows up in app. So we'll go ahead and say post form. And we have our form and we can write stuff, check it out, enter, and it goes away. Okay. So what do I need to do now?
You need a handle for
Prevent
that.
default.
Prevent the default? Okay, but where?
You need a handle submit.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a handle submit? Sure. All right, const handle submit. It's going to take in an E. I'll do E dot prevent default. Am I good to go?
No, you have to put on submit on the form.
Okay, thank you, Ashia, right? I still need to listen for an on submit event, which in that case, I will handle our submit. Great. I'm with us now. So now I write cat, enter, nothing happens, but that's fine. It didn't refresh. And I might as well set my input to be empty again when this happens. Okay. So there's something I want to do in here. Yes? What is it? What's left? Hmm.
We have to dispatch an action on submit.
Okay. Yeah, I got a dispatch an action on submit, Marvin says. I'm into that. So let's go ahead and import dispatch. Use dispatch, sorry. From our React Redux.
You spelled dispatch wrong.
Did I? Yes. Good catch, Ashia. Okay, so let's go ahead and const dispatch is equal to use dispatch, and I'll invoke it. And let's also import the action that we want. So the action we want is our add post, which is coming from our post slice. So let's go ahead and import that. So import add post from ./post slice. Great. So when this happens, we want to dispatch our add post, and we want to pass into our add post our actual post. So I'm just going to call that input. Right, and maybe my inputs here could have said post. Maybe that would make more sense, or title, but I'm just going to leave it for now, though. Okay, let's see if this works. I'm gonna write something, so I'm gonna write the mockingbird. Hit enter. Something happened. Let's go ahead and look at our Redux Toolkit, and we see we now have this post with the ID of 1,000, title the mockingbird. We go, okay, let's try something else. We'll say exquisite, maybe how that's spelled, and we'll see we now have exquisite. We have the mocking, and we have our whole state. Is it replacing it?
Yeah, I think it's replacing it.
Huh. That's
It
the
just
action.
spelled submit.
This was our state. So I think we are replacing. Interesting. Wonder why. Let's go check our code and our slice. Everything looks okay to me there. I'm thinking maybe I'm not using Redux dev tools that well. I'm gonna go ahead and add Logger in because I just feel a lot more comfortable with Logger. Now, there's something you might have also noticed. It didn't complain that we don't have dispatch available to us. And if you did or didn't notice, we never imported React Redux. So that's kind of cool. That means that when we created this React app with the toolkit, it also gave us React Redux already. So that's one more package that we didn't have to install. So let's go ahead and install our Logger though, just because I just like it. Oh, I should npm install Redux Logger. And so if I want to add that to our store, what do I need to do besides import Logger?
Something with middleware.
Okay, something with middleware.
Apply middleware, I think.
Anyone in the chat remember what I need to do with the middleware?
Get
Oh, here we go. Crystal with the win. Crystal says, get default middleware. So Marvin, apply middleware is a good guess. Good choice. That was what we used to do with Redux. With Redux Toolkit, though, it comes with all this middleware already in here. So we can just go ahead and get default middleware. And I'm also going to go ahead and make a little middleware array for us. So I'm going to say const middleware. Actually, I'm going to stick with how they're writing everything. So I'll just say middleware, have that point to an array where I'm destructuring our get default middleware invoked, and I'll pass in Logger. Cool. Let's see if everything is cool. I'm going to write snakes, and we see our post get snakes added to it. And now I'll write beavers, and we do see that now our posts have beavers and snakes. So I think we were just misreading the way the Redux dev tools were working. Oh, there it is. In state, we can see we have both our beavers and snakes. Okay, home of the beavers. That's Corvallis, Oregon. Okay, that's where I'm from. Just so you know, I'm not from Portland. Okay, so everything seems to be working. We can post things. Great. So let's display the things that we're posting. So let's go ahead and create a new file in here, and we'll call this posts index.js. This is going to be to see all of our posts. We'll import our React from React. We'll export defaults and function. We'll return a UL of something. So my first question to you is, how do I get all of my posts from my application state?
Use selector.
Okay, Ashia says we can do use selector. I like that. So we're going to say import use selector, right? This is a nifty little hook coming from React Redux. And we can take out exactly what we want. So I'm going to say const posts, and I'm going to say use selector. And what does use selector take in? Who can tell me that?
A callback.
A callback function. Yeah. Who said that? Was that Brandon's voice?
No, it's Danny.
Oh, that was Danny's voice. Nice. Okay, great. Totally right. So, right, we could say state, and we could take out exactly what we want from it. So I could say state.posts. Can anybody remember another way for me to do this, which could potentially be a little bit cleaner? I'll give you a hint. We only saw it once yesterday. Deja says defragment. Not sure what you mean by that. What is that? What is defragment?
Sorry, it's a little loud in my.
All's good.
Okay, so like you can just call it once per se, like by defragmenting the state.
Oh, like yeah, on a here you're saying?
Yeah.
Like take posts out?
Yeah.
Oh.
No.
Yeah, I think that could potentially work. That's cool. That's an interesting idea. Not what I had in mind, but that's
Okay,
interesting.
sorry.
No,
Okay.
don't be sorry. That's a cool idea.
Hey, Corey.
Yeah.
I was thinking that you can do something similar where you destructure posts where it says after const and then do state.post in the use selector.
I like that syntax. I don't think that's actually a thing, but that would be cool.
Okay.
What I'm really pushing for is we could put a thing here in our post slice where we select out what we want. So I could export const a select posts function that takes in state. I could just do it here so that it might be a little cleaner. So if I export it here, I can import that here. And I could say import select posts from our /post slice. I always do that. Posts slice. And then here we can just write select posts, because it's as if we put that whole, it's as if we put this whole thing inside. Here, I'll keep this on the side as a reference. Right, so it's like we have this function just here. It could be a little bit more readable, right? Not required. And for now, I'm just going to iterate through my posts. So I'm going to say posts.map. And for every single post, I'm just going to return a nice little li with the post.title. And let's also give our li a key so that it can be more efficient in its algorithm running React. We'll say post.id. We'll save that, and let's go see if, I think I have to import this still. So we'll go to our app, and we'll import our post index. it might be nice to put post form and post index inside of something, right? And like inside of their own post thing. So I don't have two things here in app, but I'll leave that up to you. So we'll say import post index from dot slash features slash post slash post index. Great.
Where did we call post.title? Like, where do we call title?
We specified that our posts would have a title property here on line 12 on the right side of our screen.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Would you mind going back to that post index one more time, please?
Nope. Good.
Almost.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said just one more second.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Cool.
All right. So let's go check to see if this is working. I will say, check, this works. What a title. I love this title. Great. So this is working. Now, what about if I wanted to use this? There, hang on. Let me copy something. If I wanted to hit this API, our JSON placeholder, and get all of these posts. What would I need to do? What do I need to do? How can we go about doing something like this?
Okay.
Right? This just got a little bit harder. So let's say we wanted to write this fetch all posts. Now, fetch all posts is dealing with some asynchronous code. So, this becomes a little bit more challenging all of a sudden. Because we can't just put this here anymore. We can't just have a fetch all posts. We can't do that. But maybe we can have something where we receive a lot of posts and then we can dispatch that action once we get those. So just bear with me. Maybe we could say something like receive posts. And this is not an object, my mistake. But instead, this will be for our reducer where we get our state and we'll have our action, which will have all this payload. And whenever we receive all posts, let's make it like receive all posts. So we don't want anything else. We'll just, we'll return our action.payload. So we'll actually just return action.payload. This is like, essentially we want to get rid of everything else in the database. We just want to get all of the posts. Every single thing. We're going to make a request for every single post, and then we're going to call receive all posts. And we can go, okay, interesting. Everything looks fine here. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and add some more code. So the way we've been writing things like this is with kind of asynchronous action creator, which looks like we would say export const, and I'll call this fetch all posts. And this is a function that doesn't take in any arguments, that returns a function that's going to be dispatched. So I'm going to say async dispatch. Did I spell async right? I think so. And what this will do is allow us to use asynchronous action creators. So I can go ahead and use code. So I can make a try catch. I'll call that error. And for now, I'll say, okay, I want to say const response is going to be await, and I want to await that Axios call here. So I'm going to grab all of my posts. Here, I'll shrink over the left side for now. Okay, and then I'm going to dispatch this action here where I say receive all posts. Receive all posts, which is going to take in our res.data. And I don't know if it has a dot posts. I don't think so. I think it's just res.data. So this will give us all of these posts. And in the event that there's an error, I guess I could dispatch something else. If I had an error reducer, right, I could dispatch my like receive error.message. I don't currently have that, so it's commented out. But for now, I'll just keep throwing the error. I don't care. I'll break everything. Okay. All right, so this is something that we've seen before. This was very the way we've been doing it in Redux, and this is kind of cool. So let's go ahead and add this to our code. Sorry? Okay, never mind. All right, so let's add this to our code. So from select post, I'm also going to import fetch all posts. And from React, I'm also going to go ahead and use effect because I'm going to grab all these posts when the component first mounts. So I'm going to say use effect. And I'm only going to want to run this the one time. So I'm going to add our empty array. Right? This mimics our behavior of component did mount. And I need to also grab use dispatch because I'm going to need to dispatch my fetch all posts. So I'm going to go, okay, const dispatch is equal to use dispatch. I'm going to invoke that. And let's go ahead and dispatch our fetch all posts like so. Okay, hang on, I'm just going to turn off the space heater. Oh, yeah, it's hot in here now. This finally. Okay. Any questions of what we've written?
Yeah, quick question. With the fetch all posts, use the dispatch, like what is that? Is that like the use dispatch as well?
Sort of. Dispatch is a Redux thing that we get to dispatch actions because dispatching is the only way something goes to the reducers, right? So we can dispatch actions, and with Thunk, we can also dispatch functions. And so use dispatch is a from React Redux, and this gives us back dispatch so that we can actually dispatch our function in this case. And this dispatch is going to do the same thing, but dispatch our action in this case. Danny, does that make sense or no?
Yeah, it does make sense, but I'm just kind of like trying to figure out why we're not like dispatching using like use dispatch on that in the fetch all posts.
Well, there's use dispatch as part of React Redux. There's no React over here. So we wouldn't use the React Redux hook. because we're not writing in React. This is just writing JavaScript Redux. So this dispatch is coming from Redux alone.
Okay.
So it's a function that returns a function that takes in, if we remember, it also takes an optional get state. This is things that we're getting from our store.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
just not passing that in because we don't need it. We don't usually need it, actually. So this allows us to write asynchronous actors. So this is gonna, when we dispatch over here, we're gonna dispatch this function that returns all this. And this won't hit our reducer because our thunk will intercept it. Thunk is built into Redux Toolkit, so we don't have to add it, but it's still there. And it's gonna go, oh no, this can't move onto the reducer. Let me run this function and then deal with it. So it runs this function, and then it just so happens that in this function, we try to dispatch something else, and our receive all posts is something that can hit our reducer. Because this is our action. And
Okay.
this is an array of objects. Hopefully, we have to see if this actually works. Chance that it won't. Always. Axios is not defined, and receive all posts is not defined. Interesting.
You have to install Axios.
Okay, let's do it. npm I.
No, I mean, I'm sorry. Import Axios.
What?
Import Axios. Do you have to do that or no?
Yeah, I just wrote it. Gotta install Axios. So let's let that happen. We'll deal with the bugs as they come. Because I'm sure I have a lot. Okay. So we look here and we also see receive. I think it finished. And we see Axios is not defined. Oh, I have to actually import Axios up here. Maybe that's what you meant, Rafid?
That's what I was trying to say.
Sorry, didn't know what you meant. I thought you meant just install it in the application. My mistake. Okay,
No,
so now
we have-
Axios is, but it says we don't have receive all posts. Anybody know why?
Wait, can you say that one more time?
Our error says receive all posts is not defined.
Did you export it?
See, so we haven't actually exported receive all posts like we did down here. So let's also go ahead and export receive all posts. And I think that's what's going to make it an action. Great. Well, we have now a new error. Unhandled rejection, cannot read property get of undefined.
I think he's trying to destructure Axios.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
It's trying to destructure Axios. What do you mean by that?
In your import,
Line 2 or 3.
Oh, thank you. All right, that's a mistake.
do I get a point for that?
Do you get a point? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got 3 points. Doug, that was great. Excellent catch. That's at least 3 points. Yeah, good job. I love so much nicer debugging with a class, I'm telling you. Trust me. Okay, so now we get all these beautiful posts, and I can still go ahead and add posts. It's a fantastic app. Fantastic, I tell you. Fantastic. And it all works. So that's really cool. Any questions on that so far? Okay. So let's just add one more thing. One more way of doing this, which I talked just a little bit about yesterday, but I didn't do a very good job about it. And that is, I want to talk about, just lightly touch create async thunk. So we can write our fetch posts like this. That's completely fine. That said, I don't necessarily have to. So I'm going to comment that out for now. And instead, I'm going to import our create async thunk. So this is when I want to write asynchronous code that returns a promise. I can write this a little bit differently. So instead of writing it like this, let's go ahead and say export const fetch all posts again. But this time it will equal create async thunk. This is a function. First argument is the name. So I'm going to say posts slash fetch all posts. Okay, so we're saying we're going to fetch all the posts. And now the second argument is a function. Sorry, that box, I can't get rid of it yet. I think it will go away soon though. Async. Great. So this is going to be my async function. So this fetch all posts will return a promise. So this is kind of cool. So I can still write the same code as before. Let's copy this.
Harry,
Yes?
you misspelled fetch in the string.
Thank you. Way to go, Shea. Love that.
I owe that one to Marvin.
Oh, yeah, Marvin caught that? Nice one, Marvin.
Thanks.
Okay. So the differences here. Now, fetch all posts here receives all posts. And I think, let's see if this works. I think it won't, but let me just try it anyway. And we don't have this dispatch, right? That's where this is a thing. So we don't actually have this dispatch, but never fear. This returns a promise. And so we get this kind of cool API. So once we've done some asynchronous code, we can go ahead and return what we would want from this promise. So let's say I want to return our res.data. Now, what's kind of cool about this is in our function here, I can go ahead and add that extra reducers property, which takes in different actions and things for it to listen to. And what the create async thunk allows us to use is to call that. So like we can say fetch all posts, but it gives us back these three different states of our promise, right? A promise can be pending, and I could do something with that. It could also be rejected. And what we're really interested in right now is it could be fulfilled, right? So our fetch all posts, remember, it's returning a promise because it's got this async here. And once it resolves, it's going to return this res.data. So if it's not pending and it's not rejected, we can go ahead and do something with that in our extra reducers. So fetch all posts. Once this is fulfilled, it will fire off, and we'll have access to our state. We'll have access to our action. And just like before here, and where I'm using receives all payload, I can just go ahead and do action.payload, which I could destructure down as well. So let's do that, just to keep it on screen. Okay, I'll move that over. So now I'm not actually using receive all posts, but that's fine. But I can save that, and we'll have, if things go right, we'll have the same behavior. Of course, things aren't going to go right. It might not like the way I'm trying to destructure that. Fetch all posts before initialization. Okay, so this is just an order thing because I have my fetch all posts up here. So I'm gonna cut it and I'm gonna move it higher up. I'm gonna put it at the top. And I think that will make a difference. And we have all of our posts just like that. So that's another way that we can write things. So if you had a really, so why is this cool? This is cool, and we'll probably see more of this tomorrow, but it's like, if I had a state, like a loading UI state, I could listen for fetch all posts, and I could listen to when it's pending, when it's fulfilled, when it's rejected, and I could update my load bar to see if I should be showing a spinner or not. That said, this way's cool too. We can do the same kind of stuff with that, and we're probably a bit more familiar with this way as well. But yeah, that is the review. Any questions on any of it?
So your extra reducers is when you want to have multiple things listening to like a particular thing, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. So my extra reducers is going to be listening to other things. So in this case scenario, it's listening to this action here, this fetch all post. This is a create async thunk. It's going to listen for that, and it's going to specifically be listening filled or rejected. Yesterday in our extra reducers, we had I think some kind of, we made it at the very end. We made our fruit cart listen for when we were adding a farmer. So it listened to add farmer or hire farmer, and when it did that, it also wanted to adjust something in the fruit stand state. So this state is going to always refer to the current state that you're in.
Okay.
Question.
Yep.
You go over the reducers and like the add posts and the reducer prepare, like that whole situation?
Sure. So our reducers have to be pure functions traditionally. Now with Immer, a library that's given to us by Redux Toolkit, we're able to write mutative looking code without it actually mutating like this, right? Unshifting into an array is a mutation of the array. It's okay though when we're in Redux Toolkit. This is not okay in traditional Redux. Now, we're still not allowed to do a side effect. So when we're incrementing some variable outside of everything, that is a side effect to adding a post. And a reducer can't have a side effect. Now, Redux Toolkit is building these actions and reducers at the exact same time for us. So it's not, so it's hard to control necessarily where that side effect is taking place, because it's okay in actions, but it's not okay in reducers because a reducer is pure. So Redux Toolkit gives us this nice little ability for when we have this action that we're going to create. It gives us inside of that two keys that we can use, reducer and prepare. Now, reducer is what is the reducer-like function, right? These are all part of reducers. They always take state and action and do something with our state. In Redux Toolkit, it's okay to be mutative. So in this reducer, it takes in our state and our action, and we're unshifting into our state the action.payload. So that's our new post. Now, the prepare says this is to prepare the payload or prepare our action to be ready for the reducer. So once everything is prepared, then we can go ahead and run this reducer. And so in preparation, we're going to run this function. So it's going to take in the post, because that's what we'll pass in when we call add post. That will be add post and then the post. And so prepare says, okay, I'm going to take in that post and I'm going to return an object with the key payload. And that payload is going to point to whatever I want. And in our case, we wanted a post that has a title property and an ID property. But we're still using the side effect of incrementing this outside variable. But this is okay because this is part of the prepare. This is preparing the action before it goes to the reducer.
And the object that we're returning is the actual action.
Correct. Yep. But we're not putting, we don't need to put a type in there or anything like before because we're already, our Redux Toolkit's going to do all that lifting for us.
Okay.
But yeah, this is the action essentially.
Okay.
So when we say action.payload, it's like keying into this action at payload and getting back our small little object there.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Cool. What else? Other questions? Questions? Nothing? What?
One more. So
yeah.
And the extra reducers, can we go over that as well?
Yep. So extra reducers are going to listen for actions that are not being created essentially within the slice. That's a way for you to look at that. So today we have a fetch all posts. Now you'll see in our reducers here, right? We don't have a fetch all posts. So where is this coming from? This is coming from over here where we created this async thunk. Now with create async thunk, we're able to listen to the 3 different states of a promise, which are pending, fulfilled, and rejected. And so we're saying, hey, when fetch all post is fulfilled, we want to update our state accordingly. Now this action.payload is what we're getting back from that fulfilled promise, which in this example is res.data. Now, if we open up what we did yesterday, cd react Redux Toolkit fruit stand. And so if we open up what we did yesterday, we had slightly different. In our farmer slice, we had a, did we have an extra reducer? Maybe we did that in our farmers. I could have sworn we did.
In the fruit stand, I think.
Oh, because I'm in the farmers, right? Okay, thank you. Fruit stand slice. Thank you, Maria. In our fruit stand slice, we used extra reducers to listen to hire farmer. Now, again, you'll see this action doesn't exist within this reducer's actions, right? We only have add fruit and clear fruits. So where's hire farmer come from? Well, hire farmer is coming from our farmer slice right here. And this doesn't, we're not listening to fulfilled or anything on that because this isn't a promise-based thing, but it's listening to a hire farmer. And whenever we try to hire a farmer, it's going to do something to our state. We had it just hard code push in farmer fruit into our state. Now this state, remember, this is referring to our fruit stand state here, although it's listening to an action from farmers. So compare that to today. Our extra reducer, it's listening to something not in our reducers here. It's instead listening to a different action that we declared earlier. Does that help?
Yeah, it helps.
Okay. Any other questions?
Quick question. Why did you call it post/fetch all? What or why does or what does the thunk take in? Again, can you go over that?
Sure. Yeah, so create async thunk takes in two arguments. The first argument is a string. The second argument is a function. Now, these, I think, okay, I'm pretty sure, like, if we look here in our toolkit and we do stuff. So let's say I add one, okay. And we look at our action. See how our action has this type where it was counter/increment? This is how types are written now in Redux Toolkit. Like traditionally we would do the big all caps like increment, but now we just do counter. Like we're coming from this counter slice and we're listening for the type for specific the increment like action because it's all tied together now because it gets built out at once. So that's where this is. So we're saying from the posts slice, we're listening for this fetch all posts action. And so this becomes our actual type when we fetch all the posts. And I think we can actually see that if I refresh, hopefully we'll see it. Action. See, so we have this type post/fetch all posts/fulfilled. The fulfilled being because we had 3 different states and we were specifically just listening for when it was fulfilled. But this is part of that convention. Name the slice / the name that you're calling it essentially. And the create async thunk is going to be returning our promise. Whatever we're returning from the promise is what the payload will be in the fulfilled state. Does that make sense, Doug?
Yeah, would we use that type anywhere else, or we just have to name it because it's convention?
Just name it for the convention. So that way Redux Toolkit can really work well together, I guess. I haven't really experimented, to be completely frank, with naming it something different, but this is the way that like the documentation examples and all have them written. So I was following that.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. That's a good question. Any others? I'll get rid of this. We don't have dispatch. That'll be confusing.
What is the extension that you were using to show that bit?
Oh, okay. Yes.
Chrome.
So
Can
this
you
is
like that. Yeah.
This is the Redux Chrome extension. So we can go Redux Chrome extension, and we get our Redux.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why it's being so slow. And then you can go ahead and add that to Chrome, and that will automatically get started up when you are dealing with Redux Toolkit.
Thank you.
No problem. Good question. What else? What other questions do we have? Anything? All right. Well, we can build a bit more on this tomorrow. I'm going to stop sharing. Stop the record.